This episode you're going to see lots of assembly. So we're obviously back from paint. What I've been working on now is a whole lot of bits and pieces. So we're starting to put parts on, starting to polish things, starting to paint all those loose ends. So really happy to bring you a whole lot of different stuff this episode. And we're going to round it out at the end, putting the hood lining in. And then the following episode, we're going to be doing colour sanding and showing how that polishing process goes on. Morning, Darren.
Morning.
So today's basically day 2 of starting to fit the thing out. So we got started about lunchtime yesterday. So Darren's my main man and he's here this week. So we're just doing the rack, and at the moment the rack had been in primer and all rub ready to go. And I was going to do it in a silver that the boys up at PPG organised for me, that's like a chrome, and that's the actual product there. And I did paint it in that yesterday and decided that it just didn't work for me in relation to the rest of the undercarriage. So I've gone with the same colour as underneath. And I mean, that's part of the way I work. Peter, the owner, says to me, "What colour are you going to paint that, Howard?" And I go, "I'm not sure until I get to that point." So what we're just doing now is this rack came with the whole setup. And so what have you been cleaning the rubbers and that with, mate?
Bit of thinners to start with, and then protect it with the VLR.
So the VLR is a product we use a lot. So vinyl leather rubber cleans, conditions and protects. And we've just found that over the years on our resto work especially, all the plastics under the dash and all that sort of stuff, but it really does make the rubbers look good. And if you're doing your interior on your car, it looks really, really nice. So you can see the table here. These are all the bits and pieces that I've either got to paint. We've replaced some of the bolts with stainless. We've gone and got those, and starting to clean up things like the boot hinges. So all that stuff's been, fitted, but not finalised in what we're doing. The tail shaft loop, and we end up with this sort of look here. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is get all of this front and rear end in, so that Phil Kurgene from Fuelworx will be here on Tuesday, and he can put the brake lines in that he's already made and finalise all the rear brake lines and organise the flexible lines. So we need to get the master cylinder in today, and the booster and the pedals, and we're going to get the rear end in as well. So had Steve yesterday cleaning that up, so it's a complete unit. We just got to change the brake lines to comply in Australia, and then once again Steve's been right into that with the chrome polish, which I find really good, and just the traditional mag and aluminium polish. So we'll get that cleaned up so it can go in later today. job I've got to do now with this engine bay is to get this top edge polished up, because I've got Phil from Fuelworx coming tomorrow to do the brake lines. So we've got all of those parts in for him, but I want to do this so that I'm not doing it after the event. So what happened when I did the painting is I've painted it all satin, and then I've masked back to the pin line with a soft mask and sprayed the top section with a gloss clear. So now I'm going to go along and sand this top edge so that I get rid of the very soft line that's there, rub out the orange peel, work through my grades, and then polish it. So I'll show you that process, and this is like one of those little fiddly areas you've got to do, and it's similar on the rest of the body, and we'll cover that later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub it first with some 1000. So I'll grab that box in a minute. So I've got some foam back 1000 that's a wet paper. I'm going to use that just by hand along this bottom edge because I don't want to cut through, so I'm not looking to make it dead flat. And then I've got a little block here that I've had for a long time that's this toll cut, and that has little pads that stick onto a hard block, and these are 1200. So I'll then go along and rub it with that little block with 1200. So these are designed for, you know, denibbing when you're doing clear coat and you've got a little bit of rubbish in it, you can block it out. Well, I use them to do the whole surface. Once I've used that, I'll then go on to this machine, and I'll use 1200 on that, which is orbital, and I'll do some of this in a minute. And then once I've done that, I'll go to a 2000 on there as well with a soft pad, and then I'll go to a polish. And the polish is a Mercer lamb's wool. These are a really good pad, I love these pads. And then I'll use the heavy cut mothers on that lamb's wool. So, you know, there's about 5 stages to get to a point where it's shiny, and I'm looking to have it pretty flat, and this top panel sits over here, so I only need to do this very top edge, and we'll work our way. So I've had a bit of an experiment over here, so I've got that looking pretty good. So I've worked out what I'm going to do so I can show you guys, and now I'm going to go through that process and show you how it's done. Can you see that? See the camera, if you come in real close, there's like a dot there and then a line there. So I'm obviously trying to get rid of the line and the dot, but primarily the line. So then this little gadget here just puts that dot's gone now. See the orange peel through here? The trick is you've got to keep going until it all goes satin. You see it on the top edge there? Not done. Up there. Righto, so I've got that all not looking nice and satin now. So I've used the 1200 on the hard block, 1000 on the soft block, got it all back so that there's no shiny bits showing, and now I'm going to 1500. That's this one. So that'll be 1,000 if you like, 1,500. Now, sometimes you'd go 1,200 and then go 15, but because I'm on a machine and I'm on a small area, I'm comfortable that the 15 is going to be fine. So it's like nerves of steel really, you just got to bite the bullet. Now the water I'm using is the metho water that we use for cleaning because it dries out a lot quicker when I want to check where I'm up to. Now when I've cleared this, I've cleared it knowing that I'm going to do this to it. So I've tried to make sure I've got plenty of clear, especially on the edges, because one thing I see a lot of is this edge here, people don't sand it. So they sand that, and then this edge still has all the waves in it. So if you want to get it looking really good, you really need to go away from that. So that's all I'm going to do with the 1500. And now I'm going to jump onto a soft pad. That one's 4,000, that's not really what I wanted some 3,000, but I'll use that and show you. So, with a bit of foam on there, just helps a little bit, doesn't feel quite so dangerous. And to give you a bit of an idea, I feel as though using the lamb's wool pad to polish is about 7,000. So you can buy these pads all the way up to 5,000, but I like using the lamb's wool, so I tend to just go with 3,000. Now, for filming purposes, I'm just doing this a little bit quick. I'd probably spend a little bit more time on that and double check what I can see, but to show you what I'm doing, I'll do that. And now I'm going to go to another machine, if I can find it. So this machine's is a 3mm orbital, and it's designed for doing denibbing, you know, in a panel shop. So it's got quite a firm base on it. So, and this particular pad I'm using now is 2,500. Oh, and there's a sill panel there. So I'm just gonna go over that now. And this is a little bit easier on your brain because there's less chance of cutting through with this than the bigger one, obviously. There was a time I used to do all this by hand. This is a good little gadget. So I'll just work this one area a bit here. And once we got that done, we'll go over to the lamb's wool. And this one's the straight drive, direct drive. And it's got some speeds on it. And it's fairly new to me at the moment, so I'm just sort of playing with that. Work out what works best for me. Now you can see how quickly that's shiny, but you'll find if you get down close and have a look, it'll still have some fine line scratches in it. So this is really sped up a bit for you to show you how it happens. And if you stay on that too long, that'll want to drag because the clear's only a couple of days old. Now I can see the line here where I've masked it, so I need to rub that a little bit more. But all in all, it's not too bad. Now we should have a reflection somewhere. There we go. So that's the process, and it's probably going to take me 4 or 5 hours to get my way all the way around. So trying to do it for you in 10 minutes. Now I've got to settle down and work my way around and get it all nice. Just pulled out the wiring, and you can imagine what sort of headache this has created for us to this point. But I mean, this has all been in and been tested. So tomorrow night, Friday, Luke's coming around, we're going to lay it back in the car. I've got it out today because a few things, I just spoke to Paul from Anything Racing. We've just got to organise crank trigger and our knock sensors before we paint the engine mounts. So all these little things impact on trying to get everything together. So you'll see that starting to come together in the next few days. One of the jobs that's been hanging around for a while now is the radiator. So after discussion with Peter, the owner, we decided that we definitely want to run a copper and brass radiator. So this is the same size as an XB GT with power and air, but it's got more cores per inch. So it's 3 row and then lots of cores with the big factory tanks. And we've made up our own brackets down the bottom, but with the factory rubbers. And then on the top, after talking with the radiator guy, we're going to actually make that bracket fit in there like that, and it'll have a rubber donut with a bolt directly through, and then he'll sweat that onto the tank. So it'll be a nice clean look, nothing on the top. And then through this center section here, this bit of plate I've got there now, will make something similar to that that'll actually be welded in. So the top will all be nice and flush. And then we've obviously still got to have a cap, and then our outlets will be the same as a Cleveland. So working towards that, I want to get that back to him so I can get that finished up and painted, and it'll be one more job we've got out of the way. So Darren's been here today and made those up. So that's just made out of a bit of box section and then welded up through the sides and linished up. We'll give that a sandblast and a paint, and actually I won't paint it until it goes to the radiator guy. When it comes back, it'll get painted, so that'll work really good. Just thought I'd give you a quick rundown. It's Saturday morning. So we had a reasonable week. Had Luke here last night, so he's working in a different job now, so he's sort of coming here at night. So needed to get some of the wiring finalised for the inside, so interior light wires, so that we can get the insulation, and Simon will be here on Tuesday to do the hood lining and put this covering on here for the dash, because I want to get the glass in it. And we've now, Darren spent a large portion of yesterday getting all of this wiring loom laid into the car. So it's all been made previously, but obviously not taped yet. So we're doing that, and then at the same time, Phil from Fuelworx has been in. So he made these up prior to paint, and now we've made the rears this week, and then all of those wires, all of those lines all run in to that box there, to the ABS controller, and then all the wiring and all runs into that. And then on the other side is the engine computer will be mounted in the engine bay where that hole is, and all the plugs will go into that box that's all covered in. And then at the same time, we're just doing the ADR approved stainless lines that Phil organises those, and just making bracketry and all to go on the back of that, because we've got to run the ABS sensors as well. So I'll bring that to you when we finalise that and do that. And then all of the insulation, the factory FG insulation's gone in, the factory pedal box, so all of that will just work. And then that whole loom out of the FG now, which we've made some modifications to previously, is all getting laid in for the last time. And then the rear the rear brake lines, which are those there. There's 2 of those on this because it's ABS. So they've gone in now, and the same underneath. And I've been able to get some of the colour sanding done, so I'll cover that in a full episode, the process. So these panels now are just been cut with lamb's wool, so they've still got a bit of work to go. But I've done the 2 quarters and the roof and this one wheel arch now. You can see the way that's starting to come up. It's really nice.
And part of that process, and like I say, I'll do a full episode on it probably in a couple of weeks' time, but lots of different machines and pads and sandpapers and all of that. And then we've just got the shed full of tables because Luke was working here last night. We've got the air conditioning and all that goes in next. We're working on fuel tanks and fuel pumps, and then all of those ancillary bits and pieces that make up a whole car. So all of these coolers now, we've made all the bracketry, but now it's time to get everything painted. These are all the wires for the doors. And then the radiators over here on this table because Darren made brackets up for that yesterday. So they'll actually go onto the tank and be sweated on. And we're using the original bottom mount, which we did previously in another episode. So those now will actually bolt on with a rubber, with a bolt with a nylock nut on it. So we've opted to go with copper and brass because both myself and the owner prefer that. And that radiator will more and easily handle what we have to do. The doors are waiting over here. I'm going to do some work on those today and tomorrow. And then out in the spray booth, I've got a whole lot of parts waiting for me today to get some epoxy and some primer on all those odds and ends that need to be done. And one of the things, so all these small items all take time, but they've all got to be cleaned properly before they can be painted. And then just to give you an idea, with these actual boot hinges were still original, so Darren's had them on the linisher and then they've been sandblasted and they'll get painted in the blue. I think they'll look really good. And yeah, just all the little bits and pieces now that we'll get some primer on them so that we can keep moving forward. Well, that was a really big weekend. So I had Ben here helping me yesterday. So worked Saturday, big day yesterday on Sunday. And some of the things that have come out, I'm really happy with the way that's looking now. So that's that engine bay colour with the satin clear. So that's a factory FG shaft that we're using. But colours are so important, and things like this that I was humming and hawing whether I do black or do in the grey, and I'm really happy I've done it in the grey because I'm loving the way that's looking. And that'll all go together now with the brackets and all against that radiator support panel in the same colour. So once it goes to the grill, I'm going to go to black, but at the moment I'm staying with the grey and I'm liking the feel. And you can see here, we did the black yesterday, so had to rub down all the frames, back mask and do the black. So this is jet black base coat and then a couple of coats of the satin clear, and we just always hope that our masking come out nice. So that gives us a nice tight line, so I'm just using 3M fine line tape, and that gives us that real factory GT look around there. So I'm really happy with the way that's come up. So now we can do hood linings in tomorrow. So I need to get this all done because the pinch weld will go on here when the hood lining goes in. So happy the way that's come out. And then in the booth we've got all of the tops of the doors done now. So it's a fair bit of messing around to get these right. So I previously had done them in the CF black epoxy, and now they're done with the same base coat and that satin clear. So fuel cap, got a little mark in that. I'll probably give that a sand and one more coat just to get rid of the mark. And then the tops of these go in the doors, the door frames. So all about just getting that nice clean look. And the tops of the doors as well. So I'll get all that unmasked today and keep moving forward. Some of the things I love to do is the ability to get to that process. See, I trial fitted this the other day, so I know it's going to go in the holes properly. It's just to be able to confirm up what you've been doing all the way through and put that on just to see what it's going to look like. Pretty happy about that, that looks good. So we'll just have that matte around the windows there, the grille, and then the rest of it's chrome. So yeah, feeling pretty good about how it's all coming together. So we've had a pretty progressive couple of weeks, so looking forward to more parts going on the car. So thanks, Simon. You put it on, looks awesome. And that's a wrap for this episode.